Here is the script for the YouTube video. Cuba's secret. 40% of its people are forced to live on less than $30 a month. The U.S. is often at the center of global conflicts, but there's a crisis unfolding in Cuba that's been largely overlooked. For decades, the island nation has struggled to provide for its people, and the situation is about to get worse. The UN estimates that nearly 40% of Cubans live below the poverty line, forced to scrape by on less than $30 a month. This is a humanitarian crisis, and the U.S. is caught in the middle. But what's really going on in Cuba? Why are people so poor? To understand this, let's look at a few examples. Take Ana, a single mother living in Havana. She earns about $15 a week as a government employee, barely enough to cover rent and food for herself and her 2 kids. Then there's Jorge, a small business owner who's been shut down by the government for operating without a license. His business was making about $500 a month, but now he's forced to rely on government handouts. These are just a few faces of the problem, but they illustrate the fundamental issue. Cuba's socialist economy has failed to deliver for its people. The government controls almost every aspect of life, from jobs to housing, and yet poverty and inequality persist. This is a paradox that's hard to explain, but the truth is that Cuba's system has become a prison for its people. So why does the U.S. care about Cuba's crisis? Well, for one, many Cubans are desperate to leave, and they're turning to the U.S. for asylum. But there's also a more subtle reason. The U.S. and Cuba have a long history of conflict, and the crisis in Cuba has become a pawn in a much larger game. Politicians and pundits are using Cuba as a wedge issue, trying to score points with their base. But the truth is that Cuba's crisis is a human crisis, not a partisan issue. So what can we do about it? We can start by educating ourselves about the real issues in Cuba, rather than relying on stereotypes or partisan spin. We can support organizations that are working to help Cubans in need, from food and shelter to education and job training. And we can demand that our politicians take a more nuanced and compassionate approach to Cuba's crisis. Subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one.